Story this morning. U.S. President Donald Trump's top national security aide insists his boss was correct to walk away from a deal in Hanoi with North Korea, saying that it wasn't in the best interest of the United States. Bolton also stressed that Trump strongly intends to keep dialogue going with the regime in Pyongyang. Our Kim Hyo-sun starts us off.
White House National Security Advisor John Bolton is defending President Trump from criticism that his second summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Hanoi was a failure. Speaking with CBS Face Nation on Sunday, Bolton said President Trump had a successful summit in terms of protecting and advancing America's national interest.
Well, I don't consider the summit a failure. I consider it a success defined as the president protecting and advancing American national interest. There was extensive preparation for this meeting, extensive discussions between the president and Kim Jong-un, and the issue really was whether North Korea was prepared to accept what the president called the big deal, which is denuclearize entirely, under a definition the president handed to Kim Jong-un, and have the potential for an enormous economic future.
During an interview with Fox News on the same day, Bolton also said President Trump gave a, quote, big deal document to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He explained that the document, written in Korean and English, describes the details of what the U.S. is asking from the North, as well as the regime's potential for economic growth. Bolton also stressed President Trump is still optimistic about future dialogue with the regime, which he said differentiates Trump from former U.S. presidents. Saying the North came to the negotiating table due to crippling economic sanctions imposed by the international community, Bolton said Washington will continue to apply such pressure until Pyongyang abandons its nuclear weapons. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in will convene a National Security Council meeting in the coming hours to review the outcome of the Hanoi summit. The top office says the president will also draw up a contingency plan to push forward his roadmap of peace on the Korean Peninsula. The meeting, according to the presidential spokesperson, will be attended by the country's foreign, unification and defense ministers to enlist their help in formulating a response to the Vietnam summit. And the top nuclear envoys of Seoul and Washington will meet in the coming days to discuss what happened at the Hanoi summit and plan their next moves. Lee Do-hoon, who is Special Representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, will hold talks with his U.S. counterpart Stephen Biegun in Washington, but no date has been announced yet. South Korea and the U.S. have agreed to coordinate their efforts to push nuclear negotiations forward. Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump also agreed to meet as early as possible for a summit to discuss their strategy on North Korea. Now, South Korea and the United States have kicked off their new scaled-down joint military exercises and did so on this Monday. The larger scale ones were known to irritate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. For more, let's connect to our Defense Ministry correspondent Park Ji-won. Ji-won.
Mark, the Dongmeng exercise, meaning alliance in English, begins this Monday and will continue for 7 weekdays, finishing next Tuesday. The new exercise will be much scaled down from the two countries' previous key resolve and full legal exercises, which were held every spring. So Defense Minister Chung Kyung-do and acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan decided to kickstart this new exercise after talking on the phone over the weekend. The two defense chiefs said the decision to end the annual computer-simulated command and control exercise Key Resolve and field training full legal exercise and to come up with this much reduced Dongmeng exercise was a move to back the push for denuclearization and long-lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. Instead, the two countries emphasized that they will conduct more frequent, smaller-sized field training drills throughout the year to compensate for the cancellation of the full legal exercise. Amid ongoing negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington, South Korea and the U.S. have canceled or downsized a number of major joint exercises, including Ocean Freedom Guardian and Vigilant Ace last year. Meanwhile, Mark, just a few hours ago, U.S. President Donald Trump said the reason he doesn't want military drills with South Korea is to save hundreds of millions of dollars that the U.S. could not get reimbursed. This is from his tweet, which further said it was his position long before he became president, and also that reducing tensions with North Korea is a good thing as of now. Observers say his message seems to defend his own decision to put an end to key resolve and full legal after critics have claimed that the U.S. gave up its joint military exercises while the denuclearization talks with Pyongyang at the Hanoi summit didn't bear any specific results. Well, that's all I have for now. Mark?
Time for a look at the stories making headlines around the world. And China has kicked off a major political event that comes just once a year amid trade tensions with the United States. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Adam. So Adam, what can we expect from these big gatherings in Beijing?
Well, Mark, this annual event sets out China's political and economic goals for the coming year, so it will have a huge impact on both domestic affairs as well as foreign policy. Around 5,000 delegates from China's top 2 political parties are gathering in Beijing, and among them will be President Xi Jinping and other high-level officials. On Sunday, the country's political advisory body, known as the CPPCC, kicked off proceedings. This party is mostly comprised of non-political figures who do not actually have legislative power. From Tuesday, China's rubber stamp parliament, the National People's Congress, will run parallel to that meeting. The whole process is expected to take about 2 weeks. This year, the key agenda will be the economy. Both parties will be trying to pass a new foreign investment law designed to ease foreign concerns about China's highly regulated investment environment. This planned legislation comes amid talks between Beijing and Washington to resolve their trade dispute. The gatherings will also likely address China's slumping economy, and a lowered growth forecast is expected to come out. Other agenda items to be discussed include various domestic issues such as education, medical care, as well as tackling poverty. Meanwhile, the United States and China are reportedly in the final stage of completing a trade deal. According to the Wall Street Journal on Sunday, Beijing is offering to lower tariffs and other restrictions on American farm, chemical, auto and other products, while Washington is considering removing most, if not all, tariffs placed on Chinese products since last year. While both sides are optimistic, they remain cautious as hurdles still remain for both sides. The report added that a trade deal signing could take place during a summit between President Trump and Xi Jinping at the end of March. In other news, Kurdish fighters in Syria have set free 300 Syrians suspected of belonging to the Islamic State group. The Kurds announced they had, quote, no blood on their hands, suggesting they did not take part in any fighting. A statement issued by Kurdish authorities stated the prisoners were freed as a gesture of what they called cooperation, fraternity and clemency. Tribal chiefs and other local officials had lobbied for their release. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based war monitor, said it was not the first time Kurdish authorities released IS-linked prisoners, but the number was particularly large this time round. US-backed forces in Syria are holding hundreds of alleged foreign militants and their family members, with their home countries reluctant to take them back. Just a day after launching to orbit, SpaceX's new Crew Dragon capsule has arrived at the International Space Station. It docked to a port on the ISS on Sunday, a test that would prove crucial in getting approval from NASA to carry astronauts. The Dragon was only carrying a dummy pilot over the weekend, but SpaceX aims to start flying American astronauts later this year and put an end to the years-long reliance on Russia to ferry crew to and from the ISS. Another 4 days of testing remain before getting the green light from NASA. If all goes well, SpaceX could launch 2 astronauts this summer under NASA's Commercial Crew program.
Now, South Korea's private kindergartens are on a collision course with the government as they go ahead with plans to postpone the start of the spring semester, protesting the government's move to introduce more regulations. On Monday, the Korea Kindergarten Association said its roughly 1,500 member institutions will not be open on the first day of the spring semester. The government claims the number is closer to 600 and said it will force the kindergartens to open. And if they don't open on Tuesday, it will press criminal charges against them. The government will also direct parents to seek out local public kindergartens while the private ones are staging this protest. The leaders of South Korea's 5 main political parties will meet with the National Assembly Speaker in the coming hours for their monthly luncheon. They will be discussing the recent North Korea-U.S. summit, as well as measures to get parliamentary affairs back on track. Among those taking part will be Hwang Kyo-an, the newly elected chair of the main opposition Liberty Korea Party. Separately, the floor leaders of the 3 biggest parties will also meet in hopes of reaching an agreement to convene a parliamentary session. The National Assembly has been stuck in limbo for a couple of months now. Rival parties are still at odds over a number of issues, including whether to launch a parliamentary probe into alleged real estate speculation by a former ruling party lawmaker. But with bills related to people's livelihoods piling up, the parties are under pressure to convene a session in March. Now, terrible air quality continues to be a real issue here in South Korea, and despite the milder temperatures we've been seeing in recent days, fine dust concentrations are extremely high yet again on this Monday, with countermeasures in place for several cities and provinces. Our Jaein with the details.
South Korea's Environment Ministry says 9 cities and provinces will be subject to fine dust reduction measures from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday. For Seoul, it's the 4th straight day the measures have been in place as fine dust levels in the capital rose to almost 170 micrograms at 10 p.m. Sunday night. 8 other cities and provinces exceeded the 150 microgram limit, with Jeollanam-do province issuing a fine dust warning. With the emergency fine dust reduction measures in effect in Seoul, an alternate driving system is in place for all civil servants. Only vehicles with even numbered license plate numbers will be permitted on the streets. The Seoul metropolitan government will shut down 441 public parking lots, including those located at Seoul City Hall, ward offices, and public agencies. Trucks that weigh 2.5 tons or more and those with grade 5 or higher emissions will be banned from operating. CCTV cameras installed in 51 different areas will control violations of the restrictions. Meanwhile, after close consultations with the Education Ministry, the Seoul City government has decided not to recommend closing schools, daycare centers, or kindergartens. Officials say it's due to the fact that many schools are beginning the new school year on Monday. Children and the elderly are advised to limit their outdoor activities and to wear suitable face masks when heading outside. 이승재, Arirang News.
Now, a glint of hope to this real pollution problem we have here in South Korea, because the country is becoming more eco-friendly, at least when it comes to vehicles on the road. The Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association says the share of environmentally friendly vehicles in the South Korean market was 8.2% last year. The number of eco-friendly vehicles, including hybrid and all-electric cars, reached nearly 125,000 units, soaring more than 26% from a year earlier. Now, this rise is being attributed to a number of factors, such as the expansion of government subsidies and changing consumer preferences. Now, by way of comparison, the market share of eco-friendly vehicles was just over 6.5% in Western Europe and less than 4% in the US. Local researchers have revealed 5 plants that are capable of improving indoor air quality, and that's music to the ears of most of us here in South Korea at the moment. They say these plants filter fine dust out of the air while they're going through the process of photosynthesis. Our Jo Sung-min with the details.
Researchers at the National Institute of Horticultural and Herbal Science have selected 5 plants that excel at improving indoor air quality by filtering the most amount of fine dust. The scientists came up with the list after conducting a thorough research on each indoor plant's ability to absorb fine dust during photosynthesis. After enclosing each plant inside a room polluted with fine dust particulates, the researchers measured the amount of dust left inside the room after 4 hours. The research showed nearly 60% of fine dust particulates were eliminated in each room. And the plant that was able to reduce the most amount of fine dust from the air was a tropical plant called Spanish moss. It slashed 69% of dust particles in the room. Common ivy and coralberry came in second at 65% and third at 62% respectively. Another plant, called Scindapsus and bamboo palmo, made the top 5 ladder, as they each swallowed up to 59% of the fine dust. According to the researchers, the plant's leaves play a pivotal role in getting rid of the fine dust particles.
Stomata located on the bottom side of leaves can get as big as 20 micrometers wide. These pores suck in the dust particles, while the upper part of the leaves has thin layers of sticky resin that snatch up fine dust floating in the air.
The team said all of these plants are easy to grow in small and compact spaces, and added getting one of these at home or an office could vastly contribute in making the air cleaner. 조성민, Arirang News.
36 South Koreans have made it onto the Hulun Global Rich List 2019, which is the Chinese version, essentially, of the Forbes billionaire list. According to the list of around 2,400 billionaires around the world, South Korea ranked in 14th place in terms of the number of billionaires, up 1 notch from the previous year. The list identified Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Gun-hee as the richest South Korean, with total assets of over $16 billion. The captain of the Russian cargo ship that smashed into Gwangan Bridge in Busan last Thursday has now been taken into custody. The Coast Guard said the Busan District Court issued an arrest warrant, fearing that he might try and flee the country. While he's accused of drunk sailing charges, the captain insists he actually drank alcohol after the crash and does not know why the collision occurred. You're looking at pictures from the bridge there. This accident caused damage to the lower part of the bi-level bridge, and it's going to take authorities about a month to repair. South Korea's Park Seonghyun, the world's #2 ranked female golfer, has won the 2019 HSBC Women's World Championship in Singapore. She finished on 15 under par on Sunday, scooping her 6th career LPGA title. This was Park's first victory of the year, following 3 titles in 2018 and 2 in 2017. Park is now the 3rd South Korean winner on the Ladies Tour this year, and it's only just March. Amy Yang won the Honda LPGA Thailand just last week, and Jaein, she won the Diamond Resorts Tournament of Champions in Florida back in January. Now, stomach cancer in young patients in South Korea has been on the rise recently. That is extremely unfortunate. However, hope for better treatment could be on the horizon, as researchers here in South Korea say they've identified the genes behind the truly dreadful disease. Park Se-young with more.
Stomach cancer is the most common type of cancer in Korea, and about 15% of stomach cancer cases affect people under 40. Gastric cancer has a high mortality rate because it rarely has early symptoms and it spreads rapidly.
Gastric cancer is usually found in elderly people. Gastric cancer at a young age tends to spread quickly and is often diagnosed too late.
Based on the analysis of genes and proteins from cancer in 80 patients with early onset gastric cancer, Korean researchers have discovered 3 gene mutations associated with the disease. They were also able to identify 4 subtypes of gastric cancer, which could lead to personalized treatment.
The subtypes were found by analyzing genes and proteins. Since each subtype comes with different cellular signaling, we can use that to develop medicines.
The findings are expected to pave the way for more accurate diagnosis and treatment of the disease. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. Here in Seoul, we are trapped under a dome of smog, which has lasted for several days now. And today seems to be the worst, with ultra-fine dust warnings and advisories being in place for many western parts of the country. And what's worse, this toxic smog will linger through tomorrow, so a face mask is a must. And it should get dustier as the day goes on, and tomorrow seems to be quite dusty as well. So let's avoid outdoor activities unless it's absolutely necessary. Temperature-wise, most areas kicked off in the low to mid single digits, but highs will rise fast, hovering similar to yesterday, and they will actually be double the seasonal average, feeling more like early April for next few days, but also beware of big temperature differences. In taking a closer look at today's highs for other parts of the nation, Daegu and Daejeon will get up to 17 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Gwangju topping out at 15 degrees. Jeju-do will only climb at 12 degrees. And those in southeastern regions, including Busan and Ulsan, you guys will have decent air today, so enjoy the early spring weather conditions. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, spring certainly is on its way here in South Korea. Hopefully the fine dust will clear soon, so we'll be able to go outside and enjoy it without having to wear a face mask. But that's where we're going to leave our newscast for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. We do hope your work week gets off to a great start. Do stay tuned to us as well if you have time here on Arirang TV. And a reminder, as per usual, that our next newscast is coming up at noon Korea time with our very own Jaein. So until then, goodbye.
Do you know about the king of Lian Court who once ruled over Dokdo Island? This large sea lion as a king of Lian